This episode is brought to you by Lindus Group of Companies. Why go anyplace else?
They put their heart and soul into the game with a vision of winning for themselves and their country. They put in countless hours perfecting their skills while making so that they will taste victory. These are our athletes, and now it's time to meet them up close.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Up Close with yours truly, Colin Thompson. It's good to be back. Good to see you all again. And joining me today, or returning, I should say, today, is our very own champion runner, distance runner, Miss Rosanna Hoey. Did I get it right this time, Hoey?
You did.
Because I'm tempted to always say Hoey. Off camera, I was like, good. I was rehearsing. I was like, I got to get it right. This is not print. You get away with print because you don't have to pronounce it.
Exactly. It's much easier.
But I nailed it.
First time in. Landed the plane.
Landed it. That's right. Woo, boy. Hey, good. Everyone's safe.
For sure.
And it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
And I know you got a wonderful story to tell us, a very inspirational story to tell us. And just to pick up where we left off and we chatted, you've just come back from Boston and did the Boston Marathon.
Yeah. Well, as you know yourself, and I might go into it a little bit later on, but it's been quite a long road for me since last February. I got diagnosed with breast cancer. It was a huge shock to me. I got diagnosed with quite an aggressive form of breast cancer known as triple negative. And the difference between triple negative and other types of cancers is it tends to grow very quickly. So I had to be treated quite significantly with some chemotherapy, some immunotherapy, and also I had a few surgeries, and I'm going to have one more surgery in June, and then hopefully. But through all of that, I kind of said to myself, I really want to do the Boston Marathon because my intention was from January 2024. I'd qualified for Boston after doing the Bermuda Marathon, an international race weekend. So then I said, I'm definitely doing the Boston Marathon. And I had literally just finished chemotherapy, and sign up for Boston was there. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. Like, what harm will it do? And if you don't try, you'll never know. I was lucky enough to be able to keep some running up during chemotherapy and immunotherapy. After surgery, I did have to take a break because you're quite simply not allowed to do it because burst open your stitches or something or cause infection and stuff. So I didn't get to train as much as I typically would. But I somehow managed to pull off a 3:16. I was quite shocked by my time. I ran maybe 15 minutes faster than I thought I would. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
Wow. And I remember when you revealed your condition to me.
Yeah.
And, that struck me, I mean, that's serious stuff. Cancer is no joke. Definitely kept you in prayer. And obviously those prayers are working.
Yeah.
Because not only are you still on your feet, but you're out there running again, pounding the pavement, as they say.
I know. For me, like during all of this, running was kind of like my meditation. Like everybody's different. Some people like to do yoga. Some people like to go for a walk. Some people like to swim. But for me, I find running actually quite relaxing. I do sometimes run with friends, but I also quite enjoy running by myself. And it just helps to clear the mind and get you ready for your next day. And sometimes you can solve all the problems in the world when you're running. You can figure them out in your head.
Definitely a stress reliever.
For sure.
And so many other benefits, therapeutical, physically,
Yeah.
mentally, the whole.
I always say running's the best sport, so there you go.
Now, most sports, there is some component of running to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Involved in it. As far as, when you got this news, like how did it impact you, emotionally?
I think it was a bit of a roller coaster. So I found a lump, and so I went to my GP and got it checked out, and he said, and I could tell, because I have a background in healthcare, I could tell it was kind of stuck. And I was like, I know when they're tethered, it's not a good thing. So I was like, I better go get this checked out. And, Bermudan Cancer and Health are wonderful. Before the end of the week, I'd had an ultrasound and a mammogram. I had a look at it and they're like, we need to go in here again. We need to take a biopsy. So I went away skiing for a week, and then I came back and I had my biopsy. And a few days after that, actually on my son's 10th birthday, I got diagnosed with cancer. So, and then being a mom, the typical thing, I got diagnosed with cancer and dropped my son to swimming, and then I had to go and pick up things for his birthday party on the Saturday. Like, it's just, life does go on, but I didn't have time to process it. I think after you get diagnosed, then like sometimes the wait is the worst, like trying to figure out what the next step is going to be. So the first thing they need to do is figure out what kind of one it is, because breast cancer is a range of diseases. So what kind of one is it? So then they were like, oh, if it's just this, you'll be fine. You can, they'll just cut the lump out, bit of radiotherapy, and you'll be back running in 8 weeks and having a good time. But fortunately, the cancer I had was very aggressive, even though it was small. It was very aggressive. So we had to manage it with chemotherapy first and immunotherapy before we had the surgery. The reason for that being because it grows very fast. So when something grows very fast, what they need to do is make sure there's not little floaty cells all around the place. So they needed to make sure it was all gone for me. And thankfully then when I did have my first major surgery, but sort of the final diagnostic picture, they found out that the chemotherapy had worked and that there's no cancer left, which is, I'm obviously very thankful.
Now, obviously, the treatment has a effect on you as well. Like, how did your body respond to the treatment?
It was tough. I tried to work as much as I could, try to keep life as normal as I could. Like, we've got Matthew. Matthew was 10 this time. He's now 11. And for your kid, you just try to keep life as normal as possible. Obviously, there's days where that just can't happen. You've just had treatment. You can't get off the sofa. So Matthew was used to having a mum who could go and run 20 miles, whereas then it was relegated to the sofa for a weekend. But, that's just what kind of happened. You just had to, I always say you never go forwards looking backwards. Like, you just need to put one foot in front of the other and just keep going. I did run a bit. That helped to manage the stress. I have, wonderful friends, wonderful family. I lucked out with that. Even like Matthew's school, he goes to Soldiers. They were just so kind to him and lovely. So it was nice you really get to see everybody out there who's really there for you in the community. So.
And obviously, it does pay, it does work,
yeah.
Wonders when you get your screenings
yes.
regularly, annually. I recall when you mentioned about the mammogram, I had a cousin who once had some health challenges, and, he saw me one day and he says, look, cousin, let me take this advice, go get your physicals, go get your annual checkups. And I'm like, cousin, I've been doing that for decades.
Yeah.
I said, matter of fact, I've even had a mammogram.
Oh my goodness.
So when you said that, it's like, a light bulb just ran on. Yeah. Because I remember one time I felt a lump in my left breast. Yeah. And I was like, that doesn't feel normal. And I went and got it checked. And I know, that was like something out of the ordinary. Yeah. Because, the doctor was saying not many men actually come forward to do this. Get a mammogram, or I should say get their annual screen, and let alone come in for a mammogram. But hey, I said, look, there may be some more to this. Let me get it checked. And thankfully, there was nothing to worry about. But, I did go there and to give you, because if it was, at least I'm giving myself that opportunity. Exactly. So I encourage everyone to, get your checkups regularly. If there's something out of the ordinary, go in, don't hesitate. And I think you're also, a testament to that,
Like, if I had have left it a few more months, like, the survival rate with the cancer I have is less than other breast cancers. I'm very lucky. I'm probably in the best position I can be in with this disease. But, if it spreads to my lymph nodes, my chances of 5-year survival would go down. And it didn't spread to my lymph nodes. And then if it spreads to other parts of your body, like, really your chances of survival for 5 years are about 5%. So the odds aren't really stacked in your favor. So, as soon as you feel something different, your body, go and act on it. Mine wasn't actually picked up in my annual screening. That's because of the particular type of cancer it is. It's fast growing. So if there was like 7 or 8 months between it, you wouldn't do it.
Wow.
So I think what people need to do is make sure that, like, the mammograms are very important for women, but also make sure they check themselves regularly. They always say feel it on the first. So check everything out on the first of the month and make sure if there's any unusual lumps, bumps or discharge or anything, you go straight to your GP. And, Bermuda Cancer and Health really looked after me, and I'm sure they look after everybody else in Bermuda.
Were you scared at any particular time?
I don't get scared very easily. I got
or intimidated.
I
Intimidated.
I got anxious, particularly when they didn't know what type of cancer it was. Once I know what's going to happen, I'm pretty good with things. So I'm like, so when they said to me, oh, hey, we're going to do the chemo first. We think this is your best chance. I'm like, it's the most aggressive way of doing this, but we think this is your best chance. And I was like, well, let's do it. Some other people will hold off on it and try the surgery first and stuff like that. And it would have been reasonable for me to have surgery first, but actually the more aggressive approach is the one that will hopefully keep me in good stead for till I'm 85. So,
like I mentioned earlier, you're truly an inspiration. Just your spirit, the way you've taken this on, and like, okay, it is what it is, and this is what I got to do, and you've grasped the bull by the horn, and you've dealt with it, and
yeah.
I glory your spirit, as they say.
Thank you. I'm quite pragmatic, so I'm always very sensible about things. I'm like, well, sitting at home crying over it right now. Not that you have a right to be upset, and not to say I didn't get upset, but sitting at home crying about it and getting upset about it wasn't going to change what needed to happen. So I just needed to focus on one thing at a time. And, oftentimes I think, and it's probably more now, I'm starting to feel it a little bit more, that once you get through the journey, because you're basically in shock for a year, like your body's you're like, okay, what do I need to do next? So when then things start to wind down, I wonder how I'll feel after I have my final surgery in June. Will I feel a little bit more, okay, now I have time to process this, like what happened? That was really unfair. I can get angry and stuff like that. But right now, I just don't feel like that. I just feel like I have to just do the next thing.
Because you're doing a good job, just business as usual. Like you're still doing your exercise and
busy mom. That's a working mom.
And your family life goes on, doesn't it?
What can you do?
Life goes on.
Yes, for sure. I think probably the worst part of it for me was about last April, on April 30th. Well, actually on April 29th, I got the news that my best friend since I was 7 had a very serious brain aneurysm, which was a bleed in her brain, and she never woke up. And obviously, she's such a close friend to me that her dad phoned me to tell me that this had happened. So that's how close we are. This isn't, rumor mill finding out. He wanted me to find out. And I really wanted to go over and see her one last time before she passed the next day. But unfortunately, with how sick I wasn't able to do it. So at that time, I was really annoyed, really upset, really angry at both the situation, both what happened to Denise, but also, really that I couldn't actually go there, because her last message to me was the day before she died, and she was just looking forward to seeing me in Ireland in June because she was worried about me. She was checking in on me to make sure I was okay, and then she just quite simply never woke up. That was very, very tough.
And then you've also lost a friend here.
Yeah.
This side.
Yeah.
To illness, a colleague, a fellow athlete.
Yeah, she's like Emma. Emma, if you ever want to see somebody with an immense amount of strength, that was Emma. Emma, again, was very pragmatic like myself. She was like, okay, what do we need to do next? What do we need to do next? Unfortunately, there was, from what I know, what Emma would tell me, she had a bit of a delay in her diagnosis, or she wasn't quite sure what was going on initially with her. She's a different type of cancer. And unfortunately hers metastasized, which means that the cells spread to other parts of her body. She fought a really, really big battle. Like how she was still able to stand, I'm not sure. But Emma and I, we knew each other a little bit before we got diagnosed. And then once we did, it was sometimes good to have somebody to say, oh gosh, I hate when you have to give yourself these injections in your tummy, or, just have somebody to say, this is really rubbish. It's not fair. Because you don't really understand it until it actually happens to you. And sometimes then you think, and people are always trying to be nice, and they'll come up to you and you say, how are you? I'm going, oh, well, it is what it is. I'm, getting through it and trying my best. And then they turn around to you and tell you to be positive. And you're like, be positive?
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? I'm showing up to work. I'm getting out of bed every day. I'm trying to do a bit of exercise. I'm trying to be a wife and a mother. I'm trying to, be a good friend and all of this. And, people tell you to be positive. I'm like, that's probably not really right now. Being positive isn't what I can be. Yeah. But, I can certainly be pragmatic and look forward to the next stage.
I think sometimes in those sensitive situations, we tend to say the wrong thing. We're careful. We're walking on eggshells, and we're like, okay, we don't want to, upset anyone, make their situation any worse. And unfortunately, sometimes the wrong words come out, and it's like, I didn't mean that. And,
No, and
But you know what they mean. You know they mean well.
they mean well, but I was just one of those things I go, really? Thanks very much. It was actually a healthcare professional once that told me to be positive. I was like, okay, great. But yeah, so for me, like it's been a very long journey. And cancer brings a lot of tough things with it. Like, one of the things because of the chemotherapy I had, like, and I lost all of my hair. I had no hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes. And I think when people look at you, when you look like that, they think, oh, there's somebody with cancer. And different people want to do different things. Like I always wear wigs or head coverings because that just makes me feel a little bit more like me. Somebody wants to go around and rock the ball, that they can go and do it. But that was really hard. Like, even just my child witnessing that happen to me, because your mum then looks really sick when you see her like that. She looks like she has cancer. Whereas, at other time, for the first few weeks, you hold on to your hair for about 20 days, 17 to 20 days, and then it literally starts falling out of your head. But by that time, you kind of do want somebody to shave it off because it feels like your head is on fire. So whatever the chemicals are doing to your hair, it really, really like, just please shave it off because I'm going to go insane here. But yeah, that was a very difficult time for me, to be honest. And every time, I suppose, even now, my hair is growing back, but even now, every time I look in the mirror, then I'm reminded of my diagnosis. It's like, this is what happened to you. But, hair grows, so hopefully over time, it'll grow back in. It's a weird color. I look a bit like a squirrel right now. It's all over the place underneath this, but, a lot of women wear wigs and hair coverings and extensions, so I'll just be one of those for a little while.
Well, you gave me hope. I've been losing my hair too. There's hope yet for me.
I can pick you up with a good wig. I've got a load of them.
Yep, that thing called age and father time.
I know, exactly. None of us can escape that.
None of us can escape that. I see some of my mates and, they got a full crop of hair. Maybe gray, but they got a full crop. They say, I'm going gray. I say, well, at least you still got your hair.
Exactly.
But again, it is what it is, and hey, we just go through the journey.
We go through the journey. Like one of the things that we're hoping to do after all of this is to raise money for cold capping in Bermuda. I have had some people make contact with me, some donors that are willing to help out. We're going to do it via PAL's Cancer Charity. Hopefully, we're trying to work out some kind of protocol for it. But basically, what happens when you have chemotherapy is that it kills fast-growing cells. So, well, not all chemotherapy makes your hair fall out. Actually, you should say that first and foremost. But basically what chemo does is it kills fast-growing cells. And some fast-growing cells in your body are your hair cells. So it basically kills your hair cells, and that's why they fall out. So in order to prevent that from happening, what people do in the States, in the UK, and so on in Ireland, they're starting to wear these things called cold caps. Now, they're not particularly comfortable, but if you really wanted to keep your hair, it's a great thing to do. It helps people to keep, some people say it can keep 60% of their hair. Some people keep 90% of their hair, and they end up just still looking like themselves rather than losing it all. And some people try the cold capping once and never want to do it again because it's like it freezes your head. Some people keep it all the time. And like, I know a girl here called Megan, and she's got a young child as well. And for her daughter, she said she was really afraid of her mom losing her hair. So she actually had her chemotherapy in the States, in New York. She had 4 rounds. So she went up every 3 weeks, and she had the cold capping and the chemotherapy at the same time. But, for me, that wasn't really an option because I had to be treated with chemotherapy straight away. So I met with the oncologist here. His name was Dr. Hoey. He was absolutely wonderful. And he said, we have to start. There's no time to organize this. So, and he was right, and I needed to have chemotherapy once a week for 12 weeks. And then I had another 4 rounds, which was spread over 3 months. So essentially it's 6 months. Quite a long road, but it's done now. Box ticked.
And I remember talking to you last year, and obviously I was going through my own little battle.
For sure.
A lot of people are not aware because I too work right through it. I wasn't able to go in the field for several months. I think from last March, actually, all the way up to August, the doctor had me working remotely. I couldn't be around big crowds.
Yes.
And the worst thing, I was off the road. They took me off the road. I couldn't ride, and because I had a series of seizures, and once you have multiple seizures in a short period, the law, and I didn't know that the law, you have to come off the road.
Yeah, you have to be seizure free for 6 months.
But that transportation was the least of my concerns,
Yes.
because they were trying to diagnose what was going on and everything, and I had to go up to Boston as well for screens. But people didn't realize what was going on.
No.
Because life had to go on.
Life goes on.
I still had to show up.
Yes.
And thankfully, I went through the process, and everything is checked out. And I'm just, living my life one day at a time. Thankful.
No, exactly. And, as I keep saying, you never go forwards looking backwards. There's only one way to do it, one foot in front of the other.
One foot in front of the other.
It's like running is a real accolade for life, isn't it? It's just one foot in front of the other and keep it going.
They scaled me back, actually. I couldn't do much, couldn't exert myself a lot physically, too much physically.
With seizures, that would make sense.
They restricted me to like 30 minutes in the gym.
Yeah.
If you could do it.
Yes.
And then I had I was on a prescription, and the initial one they gave me, I had a bad reaction. I mean, it just turned me into a monster. Anything could set me off. I remember one day, the tap was just trickling.
Yeah.
And it just made me angry. Just little things like that ticked me off. And I couldn't understand what was going on. I just thought,
for sure.
hey, this is normal. But no, when I went back and I explained it, to the doctor, he says, no, that shouldn't have happened. And
No.
try
something else.
try something else. And fortunately, it worked. I mean, I remember there were times when I was actually typing articles.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even see the font in front of me.
Goodness.
Couldn't even see the front. Still got that story done. Still made a deadline.
And sometimes just taking your mind off it will help you feel less anxious, I think, for a little bit. You want to acknowledge what's happening, but keeping your mind on it and, not getting buried in the sort of pity side of things. And sometimes you're allowed to get buried in pity too, but, in general, just keeping it going can be really helpful.
It was tough. Like, I felt really isolated. It was tough. Yeah. The other thing was you mentioned about running, how whenever you had the opportunity, how it benefited you, how it kept you kind of grounded. That worked for me as well. And one of my biggest fears was just when that situation happened, I was running like up to like 10 miles or 10K, one of the two. But it was a pretty long distance.
Yeah.
I mean, my runs were now like an hour, 30 minutes plus.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I'm 54 and doing this,
I know. And then it's just,
where's this guy been?
I know. It can be one of those. I think once running's hard. Once you stop doing it, it takes a little while to build it up again. It's a tricky one to do.
And then it got taken away from me. So when you say that, I can really empathize with you. I can understand that. And I'm glad that you're still able to run. And speaking of that, May 24th is around the corner.
Yeah. I'm doing it because I missed out on it. So like last year, I had chemotherapy the day before. So I was almost tempted to do it last year. But I think, I might have got a little bit in trouble at home if I had tried it, but I had chemotherapy the day before. So it basically, there's no way I could have tried it. But I went out and watched other people run and, there's not much. Though, there was certainly a little bit of FOMO, but for me, when it comes to running right now, like I've kind of done it all. I've won the Front Street Mile, I've won May 24th, I've won, I think, most races in Bermuda. Like, not to be conceited, but I've done it all. So now I can just enjoy it and just take each day as it comes, So I just love running, and I'm just happy to do it. So it doesn't bother me that I definitely will not be in contention for anything, but it doesn't bother me that I won't be.
I don't know. You ran Boston and a lot of time you didn't expect. You exceeded your expectation. Who knows?
I don't know.
I know athletes, they say that just to throw the comparative off. They got something up your sleeve.
I'd want to pull out something amazing out of the bag to do that one. I think it's going to be, I definitely do not think this is going to be my best year, but you know what? There's, when I'm kind of disappointed at my times or whatever, like there's a lot of people who would love to run the times I'm running, and I just have to, wrap myself over the wrist and be like, don't be so silly, you're doing pretty good. And, it's just, sometimes it is hard because you start a race and then you look at them and you go, I should totally be faster than them or totally faster, have a faster time. But, it's the reality of the situation. Like they haven't been through what I've been through. And, sometimes, I just have to, take it on the chin and be like, okay, be a good sport. just get on with things.
I think it's one of your best. You've just overcome one of the biggest battles one could ever encounter in their life. And there's no ribbon, there's no trophy, certificate
No.
that can top that.
No, for sure. Like, it's just one of those things. I just want to sort of enjoy it in a way, because most of the time when I'm doing it, like basically I want to win it. So I'm all eye on the prize. I like know what time I need to run for each split. I know who to keep a little eye on. I know where the mirrors are in the roadwork, and I just have a little look without looking back. Be like, oh yeah, I got a bit of space. I know how to do all of that. But I suppose for this year, I'm just going to run relaxed, and I'll push myself, but whatever comes of it comes of it. And it's not really a big deal to me at this stage. I know, my favorite way.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Preference.
I have a preference for St. George's because I live near Flats Village. I live in Jennings Road, so I run up and down those roads all the time. So I love it. And also all my neighbours are there and stuff. So
you know where all the potholes are.
I know all the potholes are, and I know where all the mirrors are as well. Proving when I want to see somebody coming behind me, I can see you. I know my neighbours will be at the top of the hill and stuff. And I know that happens Lamont when he goes down towards Loyal Hill, like of Flats is where I run a lot. And even neighbours who I don't know well, who I'd see, they'd be walking in the morning or jogging, and I'd see them.
So you're a Flats girl.
Yeah, I'm Flats girl, yes. I get a little bit of a way.
Cricket team, you do support Flats cricket team?
I don't support any cricket. I'm Irish.
Love for cricket?
No, I'm Irish. It's an Englishman sport. I don't support. We have a cricket team, but they're not where I'm from. There'd be no cricket.
Right, cheers.
So we're a Devonshire Coast family, okay? We're a DC
You got
family.
the colours on.
I got my colours on. So we're a DC family, but other than that, that's the only sporting affiliation we have.
Okay, so you're Devonshire Coast.
Yes, my son plays for Devonshire Coast.
What position he plays?
He was playing centre, CAM, centre attacking midfielder this year, and he's pretty good on the wing.
Right.
But I don't think Manchester United will be knocking on our front door anytime soon.
You never know.
But, and he will say that himself, but he loves to play. And Devonshire Coast is a wonderful team. It's a real community team. It's not fancy. There's nothing, well, it's not fancy. They, it's just simple. They play football and that's all they do. And he loves it. And, Zuri is his coach. He loves Coach Zuri. He was on, he's under 11s, and he was on the under 11s B team this year. And sometimes they get upgraded as they get, into the second year. And he's like, he asked his coach if he could stay on the B team because he likes him. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. So, I think sports are great. Sports are supposed to be fun. Most people don't make a profession. And no matter how many things I've won in races in Bermuda or anywhere else, I'm not making a career out of it. I work full time. Sports are supposed to be fun. And whatever you can do to sort of conjure up that within children for them to enjoy some sport, it doesn't matter what it is. Thankfully, my son likes running, so that's good. But he also, he likes to play football as well. And he'll do a little bit of swimming and stuff like that, and possibly a few triathlons. But, at his age, he's just an active little boy, and you just want to keep them active, particularly boys.
So does he go off the bridge now? Jump off the bridge?
No, he hasn't done that yet.
We used to do it because I went to Whitney.
Did you? Oh, yeah.
Over the hill.
So he trains at Whitney, so sometimes but
we always jumped off the bridge.
No, I can imagine.
That.
No, we haven't done that yet. We probably should do it someday, but he'll jump off most things.
I see that Christmas. I mean,
Christmas they do it. Christmas.
There's so much people.
They all everyone.
Awesome.
It's a real Christmas Day tradition. I'm just like, do I really want to jump in there in December? I'm not quite sure I would want to.
My family, we go swimming every Christmas day.
Oh my goodness.
Horseshoe Bay, and every year it's growing. Every year there's more Indian families there.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people go swimming in the winter.
No. But my son will go swimming in the winter in the ocean, and he'll come out, shivering. But then he'll complain about swimming in the heated pool. So I'm just like, seriously. But he's just funny, just jumping in and out with his friends and having fun. And that's just what you want.
So he must be fast. You said sometimes he plays on the wing. He must be fast.
He's a decent little runner. Yeah. He actually, I was away this weekend, but unfortunately I missed. He was in an event. The Pacers had a relay event on Friday night, and his team absolutely smashed it. So he was dying to tell me, when they did it. I think the closest team to them he was in the 4x4, and I think the closest team to him was 15 seconds. So he was they were winning by quite a significant margin. So he's he does enjoy it, and they have a lovely little bunch. He's a lovely little bunch of friends who all like to run too. So And I also help coach Mac Juniors and with Ashley Cooper. So Ashley and I do that. It's going to be my last year doing it because Matthew's leaving primary school. But yeah, we do that on Thursdays, and we encourage kids of all abilities to come. And it's all about improving yourself, not worrying about anybody else.
I think also going back to my own journey, I love running.
Yeah.
And it's so awkward because when I was younger, I liked sprints.
Yeah.
You know, in school I did track.
Yeah.
I did the track thing. I didn't like distance running.
Yeah.
I only did it because, you know, in training for football,
Yeah.
you know, that was a part of your training.
Absolutely.
But that's as far as it went. I wasn't going beyond that. And then when I was in the regiment, of course,
For sure.
heavy fatigues.
No,
and
exactly.
boots. But but you know, now it's like I love it. I love it. It's hard to stay away. That's my biggest challenge now, staying away from.
It is really hard. And I think it's quite a simple exercise. You know, you can do a half an hour workout and get something effective. And you literally, but same with walking as well. You can go out your front door, go one way for 15 minutes and then turn around and come back. So when you're busy in life, I find it an easy sport to participate in because there's no particularly times for it. It's not like you've training at a certain time, or you can choose to do those things. But the basics of it, you can mostly do it yourself whenever suits you, which is always suitable.
And through that, my own journey as well, I really appreciate what athletes of your caliber are doing. Like when I look at your mile splits and times, and you're doing it on your own and you see what it takes, it's like, wow. So now I look at times with a deeper appreciation because you've been in that position, not that fast.
No.
But you know what it takes. And you're like, wow, that's a whole different level.
But I also think, you know, I have a slightly different slant to it too. So running's a great equalizer. Everybody's going to be starting in St. George's and everybody's going to be finishing on Court Street. Everybody's going to cover the same distance. And for me, I think people like, just because I'm running faster doesn't mean somebody's putting in any less effort. Because some of it's just efficiency in the way you are and the way you were born, the way you were designed to do things. And, you know, for me, like when I see some people out there for 3 hours in that heat, like that's crazy. Like it's amazing to keep it going. You know, it's sort of not easy to keep going, but it's in some ways easy to keep going if you're just out there for an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes. But if you have to keep going for another, like basically twice that, like that's amazing. And I think that running is a very open sport and a very friendly sport for that reason, because everybody realizes that it's tough. No matter how fast you run, it's still tough. And if it's not tough, you should be running harder.
Heat,
yes,
everything, but you know, it's a wonderful occasion, isn't it? With the prods and everything, like you said, you come through your neighborhood,
yeah,
everyone's there, but it's like that all around. Everyone is rooting for you that day.
They are, and I'm known as Matthew's mom. No, not Matthew's mom. And I'm like waving at his little school friends and little football mates and stuff. But yeah, there's such a great atmosphere. You can't beat it. There's no real event in Bermuda that supersedes that for a daytime one. Obviously, the Front Street Mile is another one, which I just love it. Matthew did that this year. He did it this year and last year, so this was his last year in primary school. But yeah, and I did the Front Street Mile this year, and he beat me by 17 seconds. So when I'm done with all this, my main goal for training is to get back to beat my kid. Because normal order must resume in our household. At one stage, my husband was nearly faster than me, and that wasn't going down well. But thankfully, I've just been able to push myself that far. But the kid's still beating me.
Got some work to do.
I've got some work to do. Yeah.
Right, but that's good. That's a good little rivalry going.
Yeah, for sure.
Good stuff. And you know, it's a lot. I have a lot of memories, you know, covering sports in Bermuda over the years, and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to recall. When was it? Was it the Front Street Mile or was it the May 24th? But I remember you won the race and you came to the finish line and you kind of, you know, you did that. Yeah. I just can't remember. Was it the Front Street Mile or was it the May 24th?
It was, I think.
But it was so cool. I just went,
because I couldn't believe it.
It's like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, I just want to celebrate, you know.
Just that expression, like that emotion, like, you know, I just captured in my memory and I never forget that.
Well, I was just exhausted. And I was just so happy to get to the finish line. And sometimes the faster you run, the quicker you get there. So it ends quicker. So, no, I remember the first time I won it, I was quite shocked that I'd won it. So it was a nice surprise.
Now, you mentioned earlier, you said you were raising funding. You're raising funding to support other, I believe, cancer related initiatives,
Yeah.
to help combat this disease?
Or
Douglas?
it's primarily the cold capping we're going to look at as a project. PALS and Bermuda Cancer and Health there's Relay for Life this weekend, so I'd encourage people to take part. And PALS also have their walk every year, so again, I encourage people to take part in that as well. But this is more Megan and I are hoping to just raise some funds to try and get cold capping to Bermuda so that people have the option of keeping their hair during the treatment and feeling a little bit more like themselves.
And this was, you started this during the Boston Marathon? Was that?
We haven't started anything yet. This has just been a little project I've had in the back of my mind. And I said, when I'm done with all my treatment, I'm going to do it. And then I met Megan and we were kind of talking about her experience. I was like, we really need to do this. And the quicker we get this done, the better it will be for people.
So it's all in its preliminary stages?
It's all in its preliminary stages. We've got some quotes. I have to, figure out quotes for dry ice and things like that. It's a special system. But we will get there. And I think it would be a wonderful service to be able to offer.
I'd like to do it.
There you go.
I wanted to do it last year, but unfortunately I didn't get the opportunity. I wanted to do it this year. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to do it. I injured my thigh.
Oh, no.
In Derbyshire.
Oh, no.
It's up at, what is it called? Valley Peak?
Oh.
Peak Valley. Yeah. And I got to the top of one of the mountains and I was coming down. I had an awkward fall.
Yeah. No.
My left leg didn't give.
No.
Or extended. Oh.
And then you have to go all the way down again as well.
I did. I actually limped on as best I could, but I made it. But for the rest of that vacation there, it was for the wrong.
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
But I did have treatment out there. I had some acupuncture.
That's great.
Less than a month. I think it took about 3 weeks. Not full tilt.
No.
And I'm still going. Still getting up to speed.
Well, my advice for people is usually try the January half marathon first, because if you want to cover the distance, and then go to May 24th. And quite simply, I'd advise that because May 24th, okay, both of the races are 13.1 miles, but May 24th feels like it's 16 or 17 because of the heat in the hills. So sometimes say if you want to get one out of the way, maybe do the one in January or there's one in November as well. Sometimes it can be a little bit easier to do.
So you've done both courses.
Yes.
Are they, pretty much the same? And is one more challenging than the other?
I think it's pick your poison. Which one do you like best? I think they've done research on sure the elevation is pretty similar for both. I didn't get to do the different finish because that just happened last year. So that just happened last year. So I didn't get to do that. And I know they're taking out that little loop because they had a little bit where you went out and back. Marsh Folly. So I think they've just made it where you just turn down onto Dutton Avenue. So it'd be nice for me to finish somewhere different. But I do like the flats course. I like, I don't know, well, the flats course, the East course. I just like it. I don't know why. Probably just because I'm familiar with it. Better the devil, as they say.
I hope to, again, I hope to one day do the May.
But you got to do it both ways, though. That's the rule.
But I did achieve a milestone last September. I did my first official 5K.
There you go. Congratulations.
First one of the year. It was the
Swans, Labor Day one.
Labor Day, yes. The Labor Day 5K.
I think I did that one too. I'm not sure. I forget because I've done that many.
And it was hot. It was hot.
Yes.
I ran out pretty fast because in my mind it's like, this is a breeze. I run longer distances than that. And but I was coming back up Crow Lane, I was like, boy.
And it was really hot that day. I remember it.
It was scorching. But I made it.
Yeah.
And I was grateful. I was looking to go back and do some more, but it's mostly just training, personal fitness,
And that's important. And it's your own goals, right? Because I could look for a goal. I could say I want to come back and win the Bacardi race, let's say in November. But I don't think that's realistic for me. But then you can have other kind of fun goals as well. You can have time-based goals. You can say, I really want to break 20 minutes for a 5K again. I really want to break 6 minutes for a mile. And they would probably be actually preliminary goals I'll have just for myself to work on. And at least then they're sort of attainable. And, and then you feel a sense of personal achievement. I can't say it. Sense of personal achievement when you do actually reach those goals because, it's an individual sport. So it's about whatever you take to the table.
What's it like, Ben? not just to meet 24. What's it like winning it? And you did it, what, once or twice, was it?
I won it 3 times.
3 times. Hat trick.
Yeah. It's somebody else's turn this year. Let those young ones take it this year. It's, well,
Is
first
it
of all,
dueling Bermuda? I mean,
it is. It's
a crown
you don't win. You could win every race in Bermuda, but if you don't win Bermuda Day, as Jay Donovan always said, you don't win Bermuda Day. It doesn't matter what you did. I think, well, for me, the first year I did it was surprise. The second year I did it, I sort of expected to win, or expected that the pressure would be on to win. So sometimes you're just relieved that you've done what you're supposed to do, and I think that's the last 2 times I kind of felt a bit like that, especially after COVID, the first one we had, it was a really unusual race where only 25 people could go off. They had waves so every 1 minute. So that was a little unusual. So I've kind of felt a little bit weird about that. And definitely when I got to the finish line, I was almost like, I was a little bit more emotional than I typically would be, just because I was like first of all, glad to get to the finish line. And secondly, sort of made it feel like all of that was ending. It made it feel like the world was returning to a little bit of normality again. So I enjoyed that. But yeah, that was an interesting race because we took off and then all these guys took off in the distance. And by the time I got to, Bailey's Bay or like the bottom of Bailey's Bay, I couldn't see anybody. So I was just basically running by myself. It was really unusual. Because normally you'd have a few guys around you, but they took off really fast. But don't worry, I picked a few of them up on the road. Like, I'll see you later. I usually always say it's sometimes people in football kids do that. I don't know if they're representing their football team, but sometimes what they'll do is that they'll not remember that May 24th is 13.1 miles long, and they like to show everybody how fast they can run, and then they're walking by Barnes Corner, usually. So you're like, hello.
I have a very painful memory of that.
Yeah.
I remember in primary school, my dad, I entered the inter-school. That's inter-school. It was the primary school cross country.
Oh, yes.
Championships. And we were on Ocean View Golf Course running. And I didn't have any experience. They started the race and I just ran off, jamming, moving, And like at some point, I just crashed.
No, it's like to have a fishing rod.
I can't do this.
No.
And I turned around and I came walking back. I was crying. I was my dad down.
But it's normal for kids to do that, right? They're just excited at the start.
Yeah. I don't know why. I wasn't thinking. Like, this was all new to me. And I'm like, yeah, just go with it. And I was like, no, bro, this is not how you do it.
No.
Yeah. I really talking a lot about football. Who's your football team? I should actually. Do you have any football team?
I do.
It's a club football team.
Well, Manchester United, really. United. Well, mostly because, if they lose, my husband and son are in a very bad mood. So, and there's been a lot of bad moods this year, as you can imagine. But Man United, I've seen them play in Old Trafford and stuff. Like, I enjoy sport. Like, I really never supported an English Premier League football team, but I liked going to watch Ireland play because for me it made sense to watch my country play. So I like doing that. We've been to watch Bermuda a few times as well. I enjoy sporting events.
I actually wore Manchester. I'm not Manchester United, but my best friend, he passed.
Oh.
He had a turn service last week. And, in tribute of him, he loved his Manchester United.
Yeah.
So I actually wore a Manchester United jersey.
And who's your team?
To the service.
Who's your team?
Well, I came up in the 70s in Somerset.
Okay.
And if you were on at that time, it was all Clyde Bass and West Ham. That's why I don't understand how these Somerset people talk about that for Liverpool. You know what I mean? I mean, they got one of them right there. Like,
exactly.
But to each his own. I understand. But I like to, Liverpool, and especially now they've won the league.
Yeah.
Their chest is all out. But when they come to me, I always tell them the greatest thing ever to come out of Liverpool is still the Beatles.
Yes. Very true.
I tell them, and they're like, come on, man, show us some love.
My dad supports Liverpool, and one of my brothers supports Chelsea, and my other brother supports Manchester United. And I swear they pick different teams just to, have that banter in the house. It's very funny.
I actually had an appreciation for Man U. And I'll tell you why. A little admiration. I'll tell you why. I like an underdog. Yes. I've always loved the underdog. So if you're the top team, I'm not really into that. I love the underdog. And in 1979 FA Cup final, Arsenal, Manchester United at Wembley, and Arsenal were leading 2-0 with 5 minutes to go, and United came back, one back, and then they equalized, and then Arsenal went right down the other end and scored, and it was like, I felt
Yeah.
so gutted for
Yeah.
United. And Lynn Brady was playing for
Oh yeah, Liam Brady. Yeah.
Arsenal, and he was the main architect.
Yeah.
So that day, like, I really had a sore spot.
Yeah.
But they weren't my team.
No.
You know,
No.
I'll say I'm Irons.
Yeah. You're definitely iron.
No,
Well, it makes sense why you're I grew up very close to where a footballer lives. I don't know if you know Steve Staunton. He played for Liverpool and he played for Aston Villa. And he played for Ireland. He was one of the most capped players for Ireland. And his mum lived around the corner from us. And he took my father's spot on the Gaelic football team. That's my father's claim to fame, is that Gaelic is an Irish type of football. And Steve, when he was 16, took my dad's place on the senior team. But I don't think my dad was too pleased at the time. But it's now my dad's claim to fame. So,
Okay. So I'm not going to ask you to use your cup rest because you're not into the cricket thing.
well, I still Georgia still.
Okay, all right.
Again, the underdog.
Okay, yeah.
And we've always lived on the east end of the island. So I kind of think, for me, that. I know people from Bermuda say, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what end. You can support whoever you want. But we always support St. George.
Somerset's been dominating her.
Yes, they have. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, everyone has a turn.
Yes, exactly.
I remember the late Dennis Wainwright was saying, they had their turn. He was part of that team that had it for 19 years.
Yes, exactly.
Just shy of 20.
Yes.
And now, Somerset's having a turn. I tell a lot of people, I remember coming up along the way, Somerset had some awesome teams, good, great players. Those players never experienced having that cup, winning that cup and having it in their possession. They never experienced that. And this man won for decades.
I know. It's definitely,
Years, I should say that.
I know, no, for sure. It's very unique. I just, as I said, I just enjoy watching sport. I think it brings people together. There's an amazing banter associated with it. When I first came to Bermuda, the first year we came here, we were the people were asking if we were going to watch cricket, and we didn't do it. But my husband and I were going to Clearwater, and I was in the back of his motorcycle, and people were camping. And these people had a marquee and a projector screen. I was like, this isn't camping. It was good. They literally had a full power supply. And they're watching the cricket and I was like, it's amazing.
High tech.
It's a high tech. I was like,
high tech.
these people don't know how to camp. Camping is like a tent, but it was amazing.
Not best today is not it was in my childhood.
No.
You back then it was simple. You just put up a little umbrella, and then chairs, but now the camps.
I know.
Every year they seem to be evolving. I saw some up at Somerset last year, and I was blown away. No, some of them even have AC. They've closed them in and they've got AC. So these guys and gals are very innovative, very creative.
I know,
that's amazing. Before we go, I just want to jump back into the May 24th because it's just around the corner. I'm sure you've been keeping tabs on what's going on.
Yep.
What's some of your predictions this year?
For the women's?
Both.
For the women's, I think it will be between Christine and Gail. On Maddie Durkin, actually, she's really in great shape. I'm not sure if she signed up because she's doing a half Ironman 2 weeks later, but she had a really strong time in New York. I think she was 1:22, so that's pretty exceptional. Now, it doesn't always translate to May 24th. We all know that, but to be able to achieve that, that's amazing. Men, my guess is Lamont will take it again.
It's just more fun. Great performance.
He come off a great performance. Sean Trott has really been putting the effort in. He hasn't done as much racing, so it's actually quite hard to tell. So I certainly wouldn't count him out. And I know Trey Simons is back at it as well. So there could be your top three right there. It's just who falls in which order.
There's so many youngsters coming through that they're showing a lot of promise.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. Well, certainly from the girls' perspective, you've got Naomi McGuinness, who's only 11 and probably could beat most of us anyway and does regularly. No, she's 12. She's 12. No, she's a year older than Matthew. Sorry, she's 12. But she's unbelievable. She can run a sub 19-minute 5K, so she's fantastic. I'd certainly keep an eye on her. You've got other people that you don't expect to come through. You've got I think Izzy Dutranoit as well is doing it this year. So she won it previously. So it'll be interesting to see what she.
You be in the mix. You be in the field.
I'll be in the crowd. I'll be in the crowd. I'll be fine.
We'll be looking out for you.
Yeah. You won't spot me. There'll be a lot of people around me.
I don't know what the plans are this year as far as me covering it.
Okay.
Last year, I was actually off because of my health condition. And so I wasn't actually out there. So I missed the race last year as well. So you were not alone.
I got to go out and watch it, but unfortunately, my son did the kids one and he came third in the kids.
And they actually came from the other side. So came down from Somerset.
Yes.
So I didn't get to see him at all. Just listened to it on the radio.
Yes.
And, just said, hey, enjoyed it, from afar.
Yeah. I don't know if Ryan's back this year as well. He could also be a contender. It'd be nice if he was back, because I know he's been at college and stuff. So I don't know if he's back, but Ryan is certainly a good challenger because he was quite close to Le Mans last year. So
the future, that's the future.
That's the future. I think Ryan is probably the future. And
Outerbridge.
Yeah, Ryan Outerbridge. Yeah. He's,
I wonder if he's my cousin.
I don't know.
Outerbridge is my cousin.
There you go.
Probably down in Bay. I wonder if he's from Bay.
I'm not quite sure where he's from, but he's certainly, I think he would be a great contender. And the fact that he was quite tough conditions last year and he muscled in and kept it going. And, when you're that close, and same with Christine, when you're that close, it gives you the fire to go and look for it. But sometimes then there's the other side of it is when you've done it so many times, you're like, well, I've done it so many times. I know what to do here. And you just execute.
Great stuff, Chad. I'm just looking at the clock.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's hard to believe we've been here nearly an hour already. Time surely flies when you're having fun. Well, I just want to thank you for stopping by again and sharing some of your experience, strength, and hope. And certainly it's been inspirational. I've gotten a lot of inspiration from your story.
Well, I now have heard more about yours.
Yeah. Well,
I will be thinking about you.
I felt obligated to.
Yeah.
I got to share it.
For sure.
Because we did chat, behind the scenes on the phone, and I was sharing things with you. But it's, I think it's important that we express this, we share this information, because there may be others out there going through the same challenges. Yeah. They look to you for, you can be that light that inspires them and say, hey, if Anna did it, I can do it. If Colin did it, I can do it, whatever the case, whoever you are out there.
Exactly. Just make sure you keep an eye on yourself, check your health. And if something seems a little bit unusual, go get it checked by your GP.
Just going to give thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for keeping you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for keeping you in good stead.
And you as well.
And you're still in the game.
We'll see.
Before you go, I just want, if any advice or anything you want to say to the public before we go?
In terms of running, or in terms of?
Whatever. In terms of what you've been through, running, get your call.
Well, I suppose in terms of running, I just think, and in terms of life in general, well, I say just, I always say you never go forwards looking backwards. Just keep going forwards. Keep yourself in check. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. You will get through it. You can do hard things. And I think that's one thing that people need to remember. And I think that's one lesson that running actually teaches you, that, you can do hard. Not everything in life is easy. And unfortunately, these days, people are more likely to take the easy way out with technology, and, and maybe kids are a little bit less robust than they used to be. And they're less resilient, certainly. But I think one foot in front of the other, keep it going. That's all you can do.
Sounds like that Christmas show. In front of the other.
I love that.
I believe it's Frosty the Snowman. Anyhow, here we are in May talking about Christmas.
There you go.
Well, thanks again, Rose,
No
for stopping by, Rosanna, stopping by. And again, I just want to wish you all the best in your endeavors.
Thank you.
And keep smiling. Stay bright.
Stay bright. That's it.
Stay positive.
Stay positive. Don't say that.
Well, folks, before we go, I would just like to acknowledge our co-producers, give thanks to our co-producers, to our sponsors. And last but not least, I want to give thanks to you all for taking the time out to join us. And I hope you've enjoyed the show. And I look forward to seeing you again right here on Up Close with yours truly,